Give us your take on the grand jury report on mandatory overtime.
So when the grand jury report came out, it really validated what members of the Sheriff's Office, the Deputy Sheriff's Association have been saying for several years, and they've been trying to address the issue with the current sheriff, and it just validates that we've been spending way too much money on overtime. We haven't addressed the recruiting needs that we have, and that we've never really looked at the effects of how mandatory overtime affects the employees in their home life. I mean, the jail's been on mandatory overtime for over 12 years now, and we haven't done enough to address it. And so, like I said, I think it validates what the Deputy Sheriff's Association has been trying to bring out to the Board of Supervisors. They've been trying to address this problem with the sheriff, and nothing's been done.
Share your perspective on the staffing and construction of the North County Jail project.
So with the North County Jail project, one of the hardest things that we're going to have to overcome is staffing it. We need almost 100 custody deputies and employees to staff that facility. And we already have this recruiting problem where, as of right now, we have over 50 vacancies within the department, with the majority of them being sworn positions, either on the law enforcement side or the custody side. And so we really need to develop better ways than we have before in recruiting, and especially recruiting people from within the county. We need to do a lot more outreach to the high schools and to the community colleges and to UCSB to try to introduce the law enforcement career to the students, so at some point they apply to the sheriff's office, and hopefully we can fill those recruiting needs and hire those people that we need for the jail project and for our law enforcement patrols.
What is the primary reason you decided to run for sheriff?
Well, after 28 years being on the sheriff's office and with 12 years as the current sheriff, we need a change. We need to address various community needs. We need to develop a strategic plan. That we haven't had a strategic plan since the sheriff has been in office. We need to look at being more fiscally responsible. We're spending money, like the grand jury report said, $4.5 million for the last 5 years over budgeted every year on overtime. We've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars in hosting conferences for the State Sheriff's Association that doesn't do enough benefits to the community and to the sheriff's office. We need to stop spending that money and really focus and be more fiscally responsible. So looking at all these issues, I decided that after 28 years and my ability to have very positive relationships with the Board of Supervisors and with the men and women of the Sheriff's Office, I felt it was time to run for sheriff.
What in the Sheriff's Department needs the most fixing or improvement?
One of the most important things that I want to address after being elected is rebuilding relationships with the Board of Supervisors, with the Deputy Sheriff's Association, and with other county departments and public safety agencies, because over the years, the relationship between the current sheriff and these other entities have soured. And I think one of my strongest points is my ability to work very well with others. I've worked several projects with the Board of Supervisors, and I think that's demonstrated by the endorsements that I received with Supervisor Peter Adam, Supervisor Joan Hartman, incoming Board of Supervisor Greg Hart endorsing me, saying that they want to work with me to solve the problems and come up with solutions that the Sheriff's Office needs to serve the community better. Plus also the most important endorsement being the Deputy Sheriff's Association, who endorsed me, and the County Fires Association has endorsed me, identifying me as the best candidate to run the Sheriff's Office.
So what works well in the department now that you want to continue or expand on?
Well, I think our best quality in the Sheriff's Office is the men and women who work it. And we've demonstrated that through the recent disasters and trying to prevent crime. And I want to continue to work and with the men and women of the Sheriff's Office to continue serving the public very well. But I think we also need to look at various ways to do more outreach to the communities. I think we should do surveys throughout the county because every community that we serve is different. You know, Isla Vista is definitely different than Orchid or the San Ynez Valley. And so I think we need to do improved outreach to the community just to see what the community believes that there might be issues that we need to address.
If you win, you will be working under folks that you ran against or people that supported him. How do you handle this?
Well, I think after the race is over, I think you know, within the sheriff's office we have a very positive relationship. By far, I think the vast majority of the sheriff's office does support me in becoming the next sheriff. So I don't anticipate any negative issues. Obviously, I worked with the other managers of the sheriff's office before I ran, while I'm running, and after. I don't anticipate any negative issues. Also, both Eddie Schway and myself, we believe that there's change needed in the sheriff's office, and so that's why both of us are running. So we have both the same goal in changing the sheriff's office and improving the service that the community receives from the sheriff's office. So I don't anticipate any negative issues after the race.
So what is your take regarding the ongoing issues of negative interactions between law enforcement and members of the minority community?
I think the sheriff's office, like I said earlier, we need to do a lot more outreach to the community. I'd like to see more deputies become bilingual to do more outreach. I think doing more programs and outreach to the high schools will help in that positive contact by having positive law enforcement contacts with students and various members of the public. I think that positive contact and that information goes back to the families. I think that's one way of doing outreach. I think we need to identify where maybe community members don't feel that we're given the best service, and that's one of the reasons with surveys and going out and talking to the public is that we'll be able to identify the needs of the community and then address those needs and develop programs that will help that positive interaction between law enforcement and the community.
Well, is there anything you'd like to add or share that we didn't ask, which you think is important for this campaign?
Like I said earlier, I think the sheriff's office needs a change after 12 years of the current leadership. I think there's new programs, I think there's new outreach that we can do towards the community to make the community safer. I think we can work to better prepare ourselves for emergency preparedness. I think we need to address the needs of the mentally ill and people in crisis. And I think we really need to look at within the sheriff's office, just like the grand jury report identified, that we haven't looked at enough concerning the wellness of the employees of the sheriff's office during these mandatory overtime days. So I think with new leadership, we'll be able to improve in all those areas and make the community safer. I think just demonstrated by the several board of supervisors, the Deputy Sheriff's Association's endorsement, and the majority of public safety throughout the county, both on the law enforcement side and the fire department side. I think it demonstrates that public safety needs a new leader for the sheriff's office, and I'm that leader.